The drivers voted for it. The drivers are gonna get it. It's one of the most famous racetracks, but most challenging racetracks anywhere in the world. 12.8 miles of the Nurburgring Nordschleife for round 10 of the ChampCar iRacing series. We're getting to the serious end of the year. We're getting to the money end of the year as well. David Haynes with Devin Peters and Michael Derby to bring you coverage on HJBC of ChampCar iRacing series. I mean, Devin, there is no track like this. Every other track wants to be this place, and they get talked about like some of their sectors are like here, but there is no circuit, no track as challenging, as large, and as just daunting and historical.
You know, and size matters, and that's what people say. So when you come to a track like this, you're bound to be impressed. I gotta say that the drivers asking for this seems like it's going to be a little bit painful. We've already seen a few people struggling with the green hill, as is wont to happen around a track like this, and we're right in the middle of a pretty intense little round of qualifying here. We're right now following Tim Wire and Michael Thorne as they come through the final few turns before the great old straight. Hey Haynes, I have learned the name of every single corner at the track since the last time we were here.
That's great news. Have you learnt to pronounce them as well?
No.
One step at a time, but I appreciate that great effort. So it is a unique qualifying challenge as well as a unique racing challenge around a circuit this size. Dottingahua. See, it's got dots over the O's that you got to pronounce. So with a almost 10-minute lap around here at 12 miles, we've only got a few minutes left in this qualifying session, and no one has set a time yet because of the length of the outlap and then the length of the flying lap. Cameron Martineau's tracking very well. Tim Wire there getting a slipstream off his teammate by the looks of things, which will be a character of the racing as well.
Yeah, you and I have seen some pretty good finishes around this place due to the drafting, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of that. The key, though, is survival, and it mirrors the ChampCar Endurance Series in that way. You gotta have the ability to survive a pretty challenging little track with some pretty challenging passing zones around here.
So if you want to watch live timing of this qualifying and the racing, and you're watching live, hjbc.live. If you're watching a replay, unfortunately, no way to sync that up conveniently at the moment. But certainly, if you're trying to follow along your favorite team, maybe it's Team Salins, your favorite drivers, hjbc.live will let you know about pit stops, about the qualifying order, and all of that at the moment. But it's Cameron Martineau on top from Lincoln Fox, whose qualifying is done. Tim Wire and Ian Giebler have gone through into third and fourth. This is always a circuit where having a qualifying lap is very, very valuable because of the 23 drivers I can see. A lot of them won't manage one clean lap of this super challenging 12 miles of racetrack.
Some people are going to manage a hell of a lap, though. Cameron Martineau comes in and sets an 8:03.737. Not only with the Boeing numbers on the back end there, that is the fastest lap we've seen in practice and in qualifying, and not just by a few tenths. That's 3 whole seconds faster than anything we saw in practice.
If the Mazda MX-5 Cup car that we're racing in today was assembled by Boeing, it'd have an ABS system that's not documented and triggers randomly without the drivers knowing about it.
I figured it was going to be an airspeed sensor joke. You really had me going there.
Well, the airspeed is not insane for these cars, but that makes them slipstream really, really well on a couple of the long, fast straights that Devin knows the name of all of them. But of course, the Dottingahua is the famous one. Ray Lombardi goes to second in qualifying, so he completes his lap, and he looks like he's coasting it around like he reckons he's done, and that'll do well to get him in second place, but it is still 4.5 seconds behind that stunning lap that Cameron Martineau has placed. He's won at all sorts of tracks in all sorts of cars in the ChampCar iRacing series this year.
Yeah, Martineau's really taken up the mantle of some of our past champions who dominated, and it has been Martineau's season. Really making a name for himself out here. We've got a few other names though that we see around as well. Ray Lombardi, certainly a familiar name to the channel. He's got a pretty quick lap there in second place, and we got a whole field full of familiar faces that I think are going to put on a little show for us today.
Absolutely. They call them ringers, and it's not just because this is famously the ring, the Nurburgring Nordschleife, but there are definitely some drivers who come out of the woodwork. They love this track, and they know it well, and they know that their knowledge and experience of the track is valued so much because it's so tough to practice here. You get one corner wrong and you think, oh, I could have done that differently. Well, good luck waiting another 8 minutes to come back around and try and practice your different lines. So you do need to be very cautious around here. Seeing a few drivers that don't have qualifying times just yet with the checkered flag waving. So they're going to hope to complete their laps and jump up the grid to get a clean start to the race, but also not to be trapped, back from what you think could become a 5 or 6 way slipstreaming battle for the lead. Very tough for the leader to get away, and you want to make sure you're part of that pack, particularly on the opening lap.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those deals where the only thing that matters is how fast the guy in front of you is going around most of this circuit, because it's really hard to make an overtake on some of these corners, some of these straights. I'm following along with a few of the drivers out there. It looks like the camera right now is on Martineau, who's kind of no, that's Alex Harrison, who's driving around trying to set a lap this time. He's gone green in about half the sectors he's done so far today, trying to find a smooth line through the back half of the track here.
So Sean Roberts, with his 1 lap, went to 4th. That's going to be 2nd row on the grid. No purple sectors flying in at the moment, and there are a lot of sectors around here. There's 10 or 11 that it counts.
Yeah, there's such a wonderful amount of corners around here and sectors that it just absolutely destroys my timing screen. No way for me to keep up with it.
I just got to rely on the colors and be like, oh, there's definitely a lot of green in there. And John Nicholford is one of the drivers further around on a lap. Cameron Senhauser, his lap takes him to 8th. There's a couple of green sectors in here, and then I can look up and compare them to what Cameron Martineau did. And unfortunately for John Nicholford, he is just multiple seconds down in a few of these sectors, like Sector 1, which is a minute long for Nicholford, was 55 seconds for Cameron Martineau, but he's trying to make sure he sets a lap time. And because you only get 2 attempts, and each lap has officially, according to iRacing, 154 turns, that's 154 hurdles, and you've got to clear each and every single one of them for your lap to count.
I'll have you know that I've gotten off tracks on the straightaways here, just because you turn around and you sip of water and whatever, and all of a sudden you're swerving off the track. It's like every day on the highway.
I'd say that's how people manage to crash on a dead straight interstate in Ohio. They'd sort of fall asleep dreaming about soybeans or something.
I think those are nightmares, Haynes. I've been through there.
And I've been to the Ohio State Fair, and let me tell you, they're very proud of 80% of Ohio soybean farms are family owned.
That's impressive something.
I love me some family-owned soybean farms now that I'm 100% on board. So John Nicholford completes the lap, and it counts. It may be 53 seconds slower than pole, but what he did was he was very, very careful. He's placed himself to 12th on the grid at the moment. There's a couple more laps that could complete. So Alex Harrison is in the final sector. Alex Albert's 2 sectors away from completing a lap. Orlando Harrell about 3 as well. No time yet for Alex Harrison, so he'll want to complete this one cleanly.
I can feel the sweat on his palms right now. He's taken very wide lines around some of these corners in the final sector, but you'd hate to throw 8 minutes of work away at this point in the lap, and he doesn't. And he actually puts in a pretty solid time. This is going to get him right outside the top 5. In 6th place is Alex Harrison.
And then for everyone who doesn't have a qualifying time, the tiebreaker is iRating. So normally that doesn't matter so much if you've got 1 or 2 drivers without a qualifying time. But right now we find ourselves with 15th to 23rd without qualifying times. There are a couple of drivers, though, on track that could complete one. Alex Albert will be next, then Michael Thorne, then Orlando Harrell. So here's Albert, hopefully staying awake down that long straight with his foot absolutely pinned.
Feel like this is a session where I could justify having just like a particularly heavy shoe on my right foot, but for not having to push so hard.
Just keep a brick on standby that you can lean against the pedal.
Yeah, something like that. Alex Albert being a little braver through this section of the track, but still staying plenty far away from the curves. He's coming to the line, and that lap's going to be a quick one too. That puts him up into 4th place. It does an 8:08.5. Good for the top 4.
And I've neglected that it looks like Tim Wire is still on a valid lap as well, heading down the Dottinghor, slipstreaming off of whoever it is in front of him. So Wire might be able to improve. Very, very few drivers completing 2 clean laps, and Wire looks like he's aiming for it.
Yeah, he's following Canadian standout Michael Thorne, retired from the Western Canadian Motorsports Association, but still very active in the sim racing world as he tries to get a 1X on the final corner, but doesn't, and ends up with a lap time that'll put him in 7th place by the looks of things, maybe 8th.
I think he just jumped 1 there in the end of all of that.
Yeah, he went from no time to 8th place, and only by a few hundredths of a second. It looks like Wire was able to use that slipstream to his advantage.
Yeah, those two were in lockstep the whole way through qualifying, so their lap times are always going to be pretty similar. Yeah, this does feel familiar. Wheel straight, foot down, towards the sunset.
Oh, is this the light at the end of the tunnel you're always talking about?
No, this feels like you knocked off 15 minutes ago, and the pub is calling.
There's no one in North America whose pub is calling, but I'll assume that everyone knows what you mean.
I'm spreading my cultural imperialism.
It's really showing today. Orlando Harrell is the onboard right now. He's turning into the final corner, hoping to put together a clean lap. He'll be one of our final ones across the line, and 8:16.0 is good for 10th place. Looks like one more behind him. We got Logan Senhauser still lapping, coming through the final few corners. We'll see. He put an 8:26 down for his banker lap the first time around. We'll see if this Busch car has a little bit more push in it.
It's a slightly different mountain that's calling today, as he's going to lap around the Nordschleife and the Eifel Mountains. That looks like it was just a very subtle improvement for him.
Yeah, 8:26 became an 8:25. Good enough for 13th place. And with that, we'll have our entire grid having crossed the line. Starting to get themselves in order.
Logan Senhauser, hurry up and pull off the track so we can end qualifying, man.
Logan.
Oh, dear. Everything just takes a little bit more at the Nordschleife. It takes more flag marshals. It takes more track knowledge. It takes more time to practice and get comfortable. It just takes longer to qualify as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also takes a little bit longer to win. We're going to have a timed race today, still 1 hour. But, that last lap, falling a few seconds one way or the other, could make a big difference at the end of this one. And with that, it looks like we've got our grid. First place, as expected, based on that qualifying lap, is Cameron Martineau. Ray Labardi, second place. Lincoln Fox lining up third. We got Alex Albert, the rarely seen huge-ass driver, in fourth. We got Sean Roberts in fifth. Andrew Cossack in sixth. Tim Wire in seventh. Canadian Michael Thorne in eighth. Alex Harrison in ninth. Orlando Harrell in 10th. Ian Giebler in 11th place, Cameron Senhauser in 12th, Logan Senhauser in 13th, Stephen Remetz in 14th, Brian Kidd 15th, John Nicholford, the last driver with a qualifying time, is 16th. We got a bunch of drivers, though, that didn't quite make a qualifying lap today. Simon Foweather 17th, Michael Coates 18th, Aaron Reed 19th, Mark Kruger 20th, Bill Salin 21st, Dennis Federation 22nd, and Stephen Schaefer rounding out the grid in the 419 car, 23rd.
One of my first German teachers was actually Herr Schaefer. So not exactly that guy, but good memories. Eating lots of Haribo and watching Kommissar Rex.
I'm sure he just came back to race in the series, Wanted to see how his old student was doing. See how your pronunciation of the corners was.
He was very stern.
Now,
Well, it's your Canadian buddy, Hermetz, who's holding up proceedings now.
yeah, I was just thinking that we got a nice looking car sitting in the pit lane that needs to move on. But regardless, it is giving us the chance to get a look at the cameras all around this track. And as we're looking at the session today, there is a slight possibility that we'll see a little bit of precipitation showing up. It looks a little bit cloudy out there, a little bit windy. We'll have to see how that pans out.
So which corner is that, Devin?
Oh, that is the one that turns left and then goes up the hill to the right, and then you go over the hump and turn left and then right, and then you're on the straight. The Kesselchen straight? Yeah, that one.
Correct. So, of course, strategy will be similar to other ChampCar iRacing series, regular 1 hour rounds on the Wednesday night. This is a 60-minute race. The drivers are all starting with the same amount of fuel. I think it's 7. No, it's going to be less than 7 gallons. It might be 7 gallons. I should know. It's about that much. Everyone's going to have to stop. But because the fuel tank is still the normal size, they're just starting with that amount of gallons. You could stop quite early in this race and be able to get to the end, or you could try to run really long.
Yeah,
quite a lot of drivers without qualifying times at the end there, and yeah, they get sorted by iRating, all things considered, in the end.
It'll be interesting to see what the fuel mileage ends up playing out like. We have seen instances where you can save an awful lot if you ride around in third or fourth place. But one of the factors here is also avoiding the big one. This is no Talladega, but the track being so small means that even a little one becomes a big one around here.
Yeah, lots of blind corners, lots of places. The Armco is very, very close, so it is difficult to avoid an incident, even if you know it's there, even if you know it's coming, etc. So we're going to get ready for the formation lap here behind the iRacing sedan. And again, they're going to form up for this rolling start. Luckily, they don't have to do a full formation lap. They're going to start at where you'd start if you took your road car and wanted to do a lap of the Nordschleife at the Touristenfahrten exit there, where you can even step into the van, steal some traffic cones, buy some merch at the shop. It's fantastic.
We might have to do a little beauty parade here, Haynes. I'm looking at the fan shop and thinking I could go shopping, but we've got it's been a minute since we looked at all the pretty liveries we got up and down the grid around here.
So your pole sitter Cameron Martineau's in the classic Starry Night looking ST Racing Esports livery. I don't know exactly what Ray Lombardi on the front row alongside him is going to be wearing. You've got Lincoln Fox and Alex Albert on that next row. It looks very Salen's hot doggy on the next row as well.
Ray's just showed back up. He's got his purple and gold deep dive livery.
Yeah, deep dive MX5, group of MX5 racers.
Got it looks like a few Salen's cars back to back. We've got Alex Harrison running the alternate HJ livery. I think my favorite one is actually Cameron Sennhauser's making a very deep cut Canadian reference with the cat that came back the very next day on the hood there. The international audience will know even less about that than they will about calls from the pub.
You're gonna talk about Steve Hermet's livery?
Oh, I was debating if I go Stephen Hermetz or if I go to Simon Foweather. I think we'll let the censors just fill your imagination with that one that Stephen is running. I am, however, a fan of the Brando livery being worn by Michael Coates there at the back.
So it's 60 minutes on the clock. We're ready to go for the ChampCar iRacing series. The pace car is in. Cameron Martineau is the pole sitter. And the green flag waves at the green hell. Drivers heading down towards turn 1, Sabina Schmidt's curve. Track drops away heavily here. The air is cold. The track is cold. The tyres will be cold as well. Your pole sitter, your front row, using lots of curb. They're cautious through the tail of the field, but Lincoln Fox making positions and quickly.
Yeah, getting underway right off the bat there. Diving down through a few. Ray Lombardi holding Alex Albert to the outside. Oh, and a little bit of early contact, the two of them. They both managed to keep it on track, but that was a scary moment, I gotta think. A little deeper in the field, Michael Thorne tries to make it too wide, and gets the corner a little bit wrong. Whew, always scary moments in the early moments of a race like this.
Yeah, of course, the racetrack initially feels very tight and twisty through the Hutzenbach, and here it begins to open up full throttle up the hill towards Flugplatz. And you've got your leaders starting to stretch away, but the slipstream starts to really powerfully come into effect right here over the crest of the hill, very fast, double apex right-hander, and then you're right back to the power for a long run down towards Schredenkreuz, who's looking like they've made positions early through the field. Well, Michael Coates has, Simon Foweather has, Aaron Reed's made a couple, and so has Michael Thorne inside of the top 10, biggest mover so far. We saw how aggressive he was through the twisty parts early on in the lap. Looks like Michael Coates is going to have a little bit of side-by-side heading up the hill there, and you get so light. No downforce on these cars. Over that crest becomes a real handful before you have to slam on the brakes.
Yeah, Michael Coates might be one of those ringer types where he drives a little better than his I rating now, because we've seen him at the front of a few races over the years, and he is making moves like he ought to be a little bit further up the grid. Always a risk when you push in qualifying that you'll end up out of place.
Here's Ian Giebler just in behind Orlando Herald as they head back up the hill. And you've got to really slow the speed up on your way into one of the corners that's made famous for people not slowing enough on their way in here on YouTube, and pushing wide through this sequence of corners here. Everyone's done well for themselves this time around, and Ian Giebler still just trying to push along Orlando Herald, try to keep him with the leaders. You've got a little bit of a gap forming between the top 4 and then the next pack. We're going to see some issues.
Ooh. Yeah, that's the Busch car comparing its mountain on the rear end to the mountain out the window and backing up into the fence there. That was, I believe, Logan Sennhauser putting it in the fence. Yeah, sure enough. But it gets away without any damage and continues on. Survival, the key out here. Meanwhile, back at the front, we're starting to see a little bit of pressure. Alex Albert and Lincoln Fox are finding their way back up to the rear bumper of Cameron Martineau.
About to reach one of the slowest corners on the racetrack. I think they've actually already just gone past Exmuller.
They did. Come through the 10th kilometer now, up the hill towards Burtworth. Up and then down, I guess, the hill. Little look on the inside there. I'm not sure we caught that on the big broadcast, but there is a lot of cars putting pressure on each other right now at this point in the race. I'm seeing the Salem's car deep in the field. Ian Giebler, who has a little moment in the back of the shot there, gets it wide, and really hurts when you make a mistake at the bottom of the hill like that, because you're going to be paying for it all the way up the straight. And sure enough, he does. Ian Giebler losing a spot to Orlando Herald at the base of the hill. More of those to come for him, I'm sure.
And you've got Simon Foweather and Michael Coates, two drivers who've made lots of moves up through the field, 5 positions gained so far, halfway around this opening lap for both of them.
move for the lead. Alex Albert gets a run up the inside, heading towards testosterone corner. Cameron Martineau gets pushed wide and shows less testosterone than Alex Albert. Easy thing to do as he lifts and lets Alex up the inside. Not going to make it easy for Alex, though, as they come down to the end of the straight.
Now the track gets slower and tighter and twistier and bumpier from here on out around then towards the super famous carousel. Probably a picture or two going to get taken here later on. But then you've got this really twisty section of the lap. You don't want to pop out of that carousel groove. And Alex Albert leads Martineau and Fox up the hill.
I've actually been really enjoying this battle for 6th place or 5th place right now between Andy Cossack and Sean Roberts. Roberts has been all over the back of that shiny minty car up ahead of him and kind of putting the moves on him. We'll see as they come into my favorite section of the track here on the back half. If Roberts has any opportunity to make a move. He makes a nice line through that first corner into this segment.
This part right here, 4 apexes as you go right, left, tighten left again, and then right out, and you're just trying to flow the momentum all the way through that quick part, braking for a corner that's blind as you come over the hill. Where's the exit? Where's the exit? Oh, there it is. And then you continue downhill. Ian Giebler's spun out. That's behind us.
Yeah, he's facing the wrong way, and the car looks a little worse for wear. You see him turning in here as they come up the hill, and actually he makes a little bit of contact with the car ahead, and that it was Orlando Harrell, I think, who braked a little bit more than expected. Evasive action from behind. Simon Foweather and Michael Coates have to take a dodge and maneuver, and Giebler a little bit worse for wear. We got another car off too. Is that Aaron Reed? Yeah, sure enough it was, and at the YouTube corner no less was Aaron Reed. He's recovering and coming up the hill. And the trees are getting in the way of some of our fine shots here. We got to get the arborvorists out.
Wide there on the grass, back on the road, so it's already just a little scruffy. No brake lights until about there. So he might have forgotten where he was.
Always possible. Meanwhile, they're 4 deep and 2 by 2 for a moment there. Tim Wire, Orlando Harrell, Simon Foweather, and Michael Coates all close together. These guys know each other well. They race a lot in the Spec 5 series. I think at least a couple of them do with each other.
So we're about to roll out onto the Dodingahoa for the first time in this race, and it's all about who you can slipstream with and what the pack looks like. Well, here's your leaders of the race, Alex Albert and Cameron Martineau. A little bit of time over Lincoln Fox and Ray Lombardi. Expect to see some moves, but also expect to see some bumpers pushing bumpers here. Martineau now leads the race with drivers in behind him. Andy Cossack has a group of drivers, and Alex Harrison has his own little group as well. There go our leaders. And Fox, so much more speed, closing in at a rate of 3-4 miles an hour. It's going to get even more as they head uphill through this section. And the slipstream off the leaders will bring Lincoln Fox and hopefully Ray Lombardi right back into touch with the race lead. Alex Harrison's driving middle of the road, and they've formed up 2 lanes, 2 queues behind him. Orlando Harrell slots in. Tim Wire slots in. Michael Coates can't get clear of Simon Foweather. And this almost looks like he's going to let them go, Alex Harrison. So train forms on the left-hand side with Michael Coates also heading down that way.
Oh boy, it's getting all kinds of exciting. Michael Coates trying to make 5 passes on the straight, and he's doing it. He comes around the outside of Orlando Harrell to finish that series of moves, and they're all trying to straighten themselves out. A little bit exciting for a moment there. Foweather and Harrison get real close at the end of it all. Wow, it's always a good time down the Dodingahoa.
He got them all, didn't he? He timed it to perfection. Michael Coates goes to the lead of that group. Cameron Martineau goes back to the lead of the race, and this is your top 4 working their way through the Hudson Buck.
Yeah, I think that might have been a bit of a preview of what we can expect come the end of this race. These guys know how to get her done, even early on.
So then Andy Cossack is in 5th. He's got Sean Roberts and he's got Michael Thorne.
Yeah, we didn't get a good, super good look at it on the camera. We'll have to see next time by. But Cossack, Roberts, and Thorne were all nose to tail, bumper to bumper, as they went down the big long straight there, turning left just milliseconds before they separated from each other. it was exciting times. They're too wide coming up the top of the hill here too, and that's going to be a spicy moment.
Sean Roberts had the run, and he looked to get ahead, and he did get ahead before Flugplatz. Another long full throttle run here. And I don't think we talked quite enough about the weather, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's going to be something that's lurking in the back of their minds. The forecast said a chance of rain, but some of this forecasting is changing a little bit as we get deeper into the session. I wouldn't be surprised if we see rain on significant parts of the track by the end of this thing.
Well, sun was out.
We're seeing a replay here. This is Simon Fairweather coming up the hill, going over Schweidenkreuz and trying to hold the outside. A little bit of contact there with the Salins car of Tim Wire behind, but no love lost between the two of them, and they both keep things poised in the right way. Man, there's some good racing out there right now. Sometimes you get a race around the Nurburgring where everyone's content to just stay in line, save a little bit of fuel. These drivers are not up for that. They are putting all kinds of pressure on each other all over the track right now.
So with the slim chance of a little bit of rain at the very, very end of the race, you can see the sun was still out on them as they were heading towards Schweidenkreuz. Actually looked quite nice.
Yeah.
Michael Coates has caught up to Michael Thorne.
Some Michael on Michael violence here. It's very clean, actually.
It's a bit of stereo mic. The left-hand side is successful, and Michael Coates, what a strong run he's been forging early in this race. He's got a whole heap of speed, but what he is now is almost 14 seconds away from the race lead, and that's where the qualifying became so important.
Yeah, it's a little bit of race strategy playing out. You need to make sure you're doing that right. At the front, meanwhile, they're holding things together. Cameron is just maintaining his lead back to Alex Albert and Lincoln Fox, and Ray Lombardi in fourth. Not a lot of change up at the front, and they're all giving each other a little bit of extra breathing room, I'd say, making sure that no one accidentally bumps into anyone as they come around the corners.
Devin, it's been a long time since they tried to campaign for that. Let it go. Michael Thorne and Orlando Herald. So Thorne qualified well, but he looks like he's not quite as comfortable as some of the other drivers now in the racing conditions. A few drivers going to pick him off. So Michael Coates, and he's lost touch that he had with Sean Roberts and Andrew Kosick. Now this next group of cars is not looking to go with him. They're kind of looking to swallow him up. So we're going to go side by side. Kesselchen, I think, is this next little left here. I think you can go flat out side by side in these cars, or other cars where that left-hander is not flat out.
Oh, I don't think he can go three wide, though, but Orlando Herald's that's Simon Fairweather's going to try it out. Won't for long, though, because he has such a run from the draft that he's going to clear both of them before they get to Mutt Curve.
I think we got three wide there. Simon Fairweather had a lot of momentum, and Orlando Herald decided, well, I want none of that. Too much curb from Michael Thorne as he just couldn't let it go.
There was no shortage of bravery through that one. That was a hell of a jump over the curb from Michael Thorne. Gets real lucky that the Miata's got more suspension than his usual Trans Am that he drives.
So Michael Coates now ahead of this has caught Sean Roberts and Andy Kosick as they go through the carousel this time. So right with the next group of cars battling for the top five. Michael Coates, he's got speed. He races with Andy Kosick quite commonly. They know each other, and so he knows if he wants to play ball or if they're going to fight this out.
Yeah, I think the two of them are having a little action, but I think that Andy Kosick is aware that Sean Roberts has a little bit of pace and doesn't want to let Roberts get away in the back half of the lap here. Coming into Eschbach here. And then the first of the right-handers. I found this part of the track so hard to memorize when I was getting started because, one, there's the right-hander and then this right-hander coming up that looks almost the same. And then, two, I never made it this far into the lap.
The lap is one big bite to try to chew all at once. So Michael Coates, he's probably already thinking about the Dodingerhur. Once you get to this part of the lap, overtaking's difficult, and not just difficult, but risky.
We'll need a little replay on Ray Lombardi. He just had a moment at the front of the field. He'll be doing his best to reel in the leaders after taking a little excursion. We'll see if it gets caught here. Sure enough, you see him running real wide on the exit. That's not the intended line. He's going to have to make some time up before he gets onto the straight. Otherwise, he's not going to have a chance to stay in contact with the lead three at the end of the Dodingerhur.
Yeah, another lap, though, where your leaders stretch away from the rest of the field, because now with Sean Roberts, Andy Kosick, and Michael Coates there, they are 15 seconds behind the lead. So the decent gap beginning to form between what's become a top three drivers and the rest through the Kleinis carousel. A spin for Sean Roberts.
And then a big wreck behind, and that's one, and we called it. Always a chance that you're going to see a big one from a little one, and that was what that was. Simon Foweather blind after Sean Roberts comes around and is parked in the middle of the track. Roberts says the right thing, but there's no evasive action possible sometimes. Looked like they might have caught, I think that was Aaron Reed. We got another one gone. Cameron Senhauser's just stuffed it in the wall and written off another Miata deep in the field.
The race leaders are bump drafting each other, but Lincoln Fox is still closing in. This is a look at that thing was already...
already a little bit worse for wear, but the cat came back, as they say, and he's gonna carry on with a car that is not handling at its peak.
Leaders going past the pit entry. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few that think about it this time around and get your top three back within 1 second. A new fastest lap of the race for Alex Albert, as he picked up that slipstream very, very powerfully. So did Lincoln Fox. Ray Lombardi will be rueing the fact that his little error has put him just out of reach of this leading three.
Yeah, it's a little bit painful trying to scrape and claw your way back, but if you're him, you're just hoping to stay consistent and hoping that the three of them decide to have a little fight, because that'll give you the window that you need. There's such long laps around here that there's always an opportunity to get back in the game. In the meantime, I'd say that he's fallen back far enough that he's almost closer to the guys, maybe a little bit further. He's almost halfway between the lead pack and the second pack. So it'll be interesting times for him.
Also a personal best lap of the race for Michael Coates last lap, as he caught up to the next group of drivers, made some passes, and has gotten to the head of this group. And it's hardly a group anymore, is it, after that spin from Sean Roberts and a couple of other cars that got tangled in it. Definitely cost some time to Orlando Herald. Definitely did a lot of damage to Simon Foweather.
Yeah, I was going to say, Michael Coates, he's... I think the stewards wouldn't like his fastest lap. I'm not sure how much of a lift there was for that yellow flag, but hey, he made it through unscathed, and that's all iRacing cares about. So. Leaders are getting close together as they come through the foxhole.
It's pretty
right on Martinell's rear bumper.
Pretty fast through the opening part of the laps. You've got a couple of straights, like up to the Flugplatz, around to Arenberg, and then here up the hill towards Adenauer Forst. But then it gets a bit twistier until you get around to that next long straight up the hill to the Bravery corner, and then it stays very, very twisty until you get to the Dodingerhur.
I always thought it was called Adenauer Frost, but just because I saw so many GT cars parked here when it snowed at the ring. It really is just fun to watch people throw cars around this ring. Both of them just seeing who can be bravest on each turn in, each apex, each exit. I don't think I gave Lincoln Fox an adequate shout out for what is a pretty nice looking paint job on that thing. But anyway.
Don't think Lincoln's planning on boarding an LL flight anytime soon, though.
Fair enough.
They're now 7 seconds behind these leaders to Ray Lombardi. That little mistake that costs you the slipstream then goes on to cost you a lot. When you could stay with someone whose pace is 2 or 3 seconds a lap faster than you, if you just stay in that 1 second bubble where you pick up, a couple tenths, half a second worth of toe on all of the major straights around here. Once you're out of that, you start to see them getting a lot smaller in the distance.
Yeah, if you're Ray, you're really wishing they would get into a battle, because every one of these straights he's gonna lose a little bit of time, and sure enough, he's down 2 seconds since the last time I checked in, nearly 8 seconds back at the lead. And without the draft, particularly up the hill here, he's really going to be paying the price. At the front, Alex Albert is very aware of that. He seems to be trying to give a big a push as he can to Cameron Martineau. Backs off it though, and now Fox is going to get the run. And pretty safe line there from all concerned. But they will be a pack of 3 when they leave the straightaway.
Saw a pack of 3 barbecue gas lighters, and I thought, what am I going to do with the second and third ones? Because you can light multiple barbecues from one lighter.
You're making me feel very concerned about the fact that I just bought 8 from Costco, but...
well, how many barbecues you got to light?
It was 2, but, apparently I needed 3 backups for each.
Okay.
I was taking the mindset of 10mm sockets. You just buy more and kind of sprinkle them around your garage, what for finding the next one.
The 10mm socket / hair tie type distribution system.
Yep. So Ray Lombardi checking in from 4th place. He's now 9 seconds back after that trip up the straightaway. So 2 seconds a straight. Oh, you got to be working, Ray. You got to dig. Might be a lonely one for him if he doesn't figure this out.
Michael Coates is motoring. Tim Wire is motoring, and he's back with Michael Thorne.
Michael Coates is hanging on for dear life. But yeah, sure enough, so is Thorne, as he has to take evasive action as Wire goes around and behind the tree. But Wire, he manages to do the best kind of spin at the Nurburgring, which is one that doesn't end up in the guardrail. And he'll carry on. Michael Thorne, though, I think pushed him into that one. And I was going to make a similar comment about how hard Coates was pushing, but it was Thorne who forced an error out of the driver ahead first.
Yeah, I think Wire was already a little off his line there and a little quick.
Yeah, it's always the trick though around the ring, because there's so many corners and there's so many spots to gain a tenth and lose a tenth. The guy ahead, he starts to be a little faster than you through a few segments, a few sections, and you're like, oh boy, I got to make it all up. Not remembering with your little reptile brain that actually there's going to be a straightaway in a few corners here that's going to let you make up 2 seconds.
You angling to take Danica Patrick's job?
I refuse to come.
I'm taking that as I've definitely signed with F1 TV for 2025. You got your leading 3 on the longest straight of the racetrack once again. Hit that terminal velocity about here, and then the car behind can really gain. And Alex Albert's got a whole heap of speed, closing in on Cameron Martineau, and he pulls out to the right-hand side. Now it's a buffet for Lincoln Fox to pick up a toe and close in on first and second as they're both punching through the air. Martineau comes back across in behind Alex Albert. And once again, your top 3 get super close right at the end of the lap.
Lincoln's running in 3rd and staying kind of conservative, but I can't imagine deciding not to pit with everyone else. I can't imagine saving enough fuel to get you 2-3 seconds. So I think it's just a conservation strategy at this point in the race. Coming up on halfway through.
Halfway on the time, but I'm definitely predicting this to be an 8-lap race. We've completed 3. We've probably got 5 more to go at this point. It will get a little darker right at the end, though. You see where the sun is very close to the horizon.
Yeah, checking in the forecast, the 30% rain that was on the horizon is going away. Looks like the percentages are coming down and down and down. So we might only see a few sprinkles, and we might not see any at all on the track today. We'll have to see, but it is still a little cloudy and variable out there.
So no PB lap times from your leading 3. Ray Lombardi, I don't think so, because he's dropped away from the leading group. Michael Coates and Andy Kosick bettering their PBs. Alex Harrison pitting in.
Yeah, I think this might be our first scheduled stop of the race. Harrison deciding to come in a little bit early. Maybe fix up a twisted bumper or something similar. He will give us a nice measuring stick, though, for what we can expect as far as fuel goes.
You have that much confidence in his strategy, do you?
Oh, just so much.
Personally, not quite as certain that Alex Harrison will be our yardstick, but Ian Giebler, who's also pitted, is going to end up just in front of him. As he comes back into the race. So 2 drivers who have stopped are back together in the 12th and 13th. 2 relatively quick drivers. Definitely put him in the top half of pace.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see if how the pace is going to manifest around this track. There's a reason that they have specialists out here. It's not just a road circuit, Meanwhile, our lead pack carries on, staying tight together. Now up to 10 seconds gap to Ray Lombardi. Didn't lose as much time that time through Udogarhoy, but I think still suffering, still trying to find his way back to the leaders. Last time by, the leaders ran 8:04s, Ray 8:09.
Yeah, and that's slower than what Michael Coates and Andy Kosick did, with Michael Coates leading the way in an 8:07.2 and Andy Kosick doing that thing you've got to do where you just stay within the bubble and run with them on the straights.
Yeah, this is an impressive little push here from Kosick. He ran an 8:11 in qualifying, and that 8:07 was 4 seconds faster. You can attribute a little bit of that to draft, but that's a guy who's living on the ragged edge and learning as he goes, learning a little bit from the car ahead.
This is another part of the lap, though, where you're in between the long straights down to the foxhole previously, and then you're a little while away before you head up the hill through Kesselchen. So he's got to try to stay in that section until they get to one of the long straights again. This is down into Bergwerk. Bit of camber, really late apex necessary, because once you get to the corner tightens and once you get to power, you stay flat out, long run up the hill here.
Yeah, another one of those corners where you wish you had a bit of sand in the shoe to help you hold it down. But it's a good little run, and it's a good little run from Cameron Martineau as he comes flying up on the back of Alex Albert. Track straightens out here. We'll see him make the choice. Is it going to be? It's going to be just a draft, or is it going to be a bump? It's going to be a move. It looks like just drafting at this point, trying to save a little bit of fuel. Lincoln Fox, meanwhile, hanging back as usual, but using the straightaway to gain, and get on that rear bumper again.
Yep, I saw a speed difference of about 4 or almost 5 miles an hour that Lincoln Fox could close in on them with up the hill there. So that's very, very useful.
How much do you think is Lincoln just holding back versus not maybe having quite the outright pace? I've been trying to decide if this is a 2-horse race or a 3-horse race for a bit.
Well, it's always a 3-horse race until right at the end. Oh, I feel a bit dizzy. Good shot, though, from the center of the carousel. Break your neck as you follow the cars around. I think Fox is good with this car, but I'm not aware as being particularly experienced with the Nurburgring Nordschleife, whereas obviously that's where Alex Albert and Cameron Martineau are at, is that they both feel very confident with the racetrack to be quick and also to be consistent.
Yeah, knowing every bump, every bend is definitely an advantage around here, and I can definitely say that Alex Albert is a guy who you basically only get out of the cave, the garage, with the promise of a Nurburgring and a Miata.
That number on the billboard is not censored. That's the actual number you would ring if you wrecked your car around here.
Probably a long distance call for most of our drivers today, but hey, they're the ones who wanted to go international.
My plan includes calls and text messages in Germany, France, UK, US, Canada, etc. Not like that I rarely use, and that's why they offer it, because people so rarely use it, but they can throw it in.
We have far more aggressive capitalist tendencies up here, Haynes. That's a luxury plan you got there. Coming through one of the more puckery sections of the track. Never quite feels like you've got enough grip for this section, even in a car like the Miata. And as you desperately try to roll some extra speed up the hill, it's so easy just to drive it in a little deep, and Alex does actually loses a couple car lengths on the exit, having to tap the brakes a second time. Cameron Martineau, though, for his part, also loses a few tenths, having to counter steer at the apex of the second carousel there.
Yeah, it's a tough one. There's so much banking on the way in, and then it sort of feathers out, and so you start to lose grip as you go, heading straight towards the sunset, lower and lower in the sky, and Cameron Martineau applies a bump behind Alex Albert. It still won't stop Lincoln Fox from getting closer and closer, currently 8 tenths back, but slowly clawing the distance in.
Sun's getting real low, boys. Yeah, Cameron Martineau has chosen collaboration, not co-opetition, this time down the straight. I guess trying to see what the difference is. Alex Albert leapfrogging last time led to Lincoln Fox closing down the gap, and Lincoln still closing down the gap, but not nearly as fast as last time. About 4 miles an hour difference, though, at this point in straight.
Yeah, that's faster than your normal walking pace. So if you're in a car park and you're looking at your car 10 spots away, well, how long does it take you to walk that distance? Not very long. That's the delta, how quickly you close down the gap and approach the car in front.
Nothing that makes a guy angrier than starting a qualifying lap and clipping that pit wall on the right-hand side. Let me tell you. None of the drivers at the front here do that, though.
Pace just dropped off a tiny bit from the leader, so they've gone from the 804s to the 805s, but they've got no need to continue to push on too hard. They're still quicker than everyone else, including Ray Lombardi, who's now 10 seconds ahead of Michael Coates and Andy Kosick. Kosick 3 seconds slower than Coates. That lap has just dropped back. And then you get to this next sort of group of cars where Michael Thorne's going to pit. We have crossed the halfway point. 4 laps completed, time in hand to do 4 more. And then Orlando Herald, Tim Wire, Logan Senhauser. Next group of battling cars you're going to get to these drivers who've stopped. So for Alex Harrison, this is a good outlap from his pit stop because he has managed to get to and go with Ian Giebler on this one.
And Michael Thorne being joined by Tim Wire in the pits as well. Wire had looked like a little bit of difficulty finding his pit stall with the other car there. Aaron Reed also far at the back of the pit lane. Looks like he is undergoing some repairs, though. He might be stuck there for a while. Michael Thorne pulls away, and Tim Wire pulls away, actually, a little bit earlier than expected. A pretty short fuel stop there for Wire.
Yep. So these guys are going to come out with their pit stop completed ahead of Ian Giebler and Alex Harrison, who we were watching. Logan Senhauser comes in.
Very curious. I do wonder. Mark Kruger hits the lane as well in the foreground there. He's driving a bright yellow car.
Got to make sure you don't hit the fuel pump, the fuel bowser at pit exit there as well. So it's an interesting pit lane here. It's really...
Michael Thorne's just had a little drama on his outlap. He has a slow, lazy spin, gets it pointed the right way, but loses the spot to Tim Wire. We'll see him here. Turns the right-hander and just kind of slides, like he's trying to go up the safety road.
Looks like new cold tires kind of stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did have that appearance to it. And I did see the jacks going up and down for him, so I think you're right on that one. Wow, it's getting a little spicy deeper in the field here.
Well, yeah, that's Michael Thorne recovering with Ian Giebler going past, and Alex Harrison. Ooh, what's he gonna try? Is he getting boxed in a little bit here?
Yeah, nowhere to go.
We know Tim Wire and Ian Giebler are good buddies. Michael Thorne's been working with Tim Wire, so I wonder if they're not going to make things all too easy, or if there's a little drama for Ian Giebler.
Well, nothing yet, but Alex Harrison still wants to make the move. It's a tough place to do it down here in the Foxhole, but it's been done. Looks like he'll tuck right in. Harrison, though, just tapping the brakes from right behind Michael Thorne there, just saving himself a little extra breathing room. Still a few laps to go here. Thorne gets it in a little deep at the top of Adenauer Frost. He's sticking to the left-hand side, making it tough for the exit. Going to use all the exit curb and then some. And all three of them managed to get through safely. But I think I like Harrison's line through there a little bit better.
And it'd broadly be considered probably not the optimal line.
Yeah, if it gets you through at the Nurburgring, not sure how wrong it can be. Either way, it remains a pack of three, and this is our battle for 10th place. So right on the edge of the top 10. Michael Thorne, though, got to be thinking that he's faster.
Is heading up towards the top of the hill with the race leaders. Again, Lincoln Fox close, but just 2 car lengths back, staying a respectful distance from Alex Albert, Cameron Martineau, both of whom have led the race at points.
Getting a nice overhead view up the hill this time. And you can sort of see Lincoln Fox closing things down.
This is to the very, very highest point of the racetrack right here. And overall, across this 12.8 mile lap, the difference between the highest point and the lowest point is a lot. More so than bottom of the mountain to top of the mountain at Mount Panorama Bathurst, which itself is more than the highest point to lowest point of Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. All of them, of course, dwarfed by Mount Washington Hill Climb.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to make some outlandish claims about Mount Panorama. It didn't sound plausible to me. Where does Panorama fall on that scale?
It's actually hard to bot GT3 cars for Mount Panorama because the naturally aspirated cars make so much more horsepower at the bottom of the hill than they do at the top of the hill.
I didn't realize it was that big of a differential.
That was my I'm exaggerating slightly voice, but it is yeah. I think it's not 100. It's not 1,000 feet of elevation difference, but that's when you start to go, oh yeah, well, like the air is noticeably, a decimal fraction less dense, and so 1% power of 500 horsepower would be 5. So 1/5% would be a horsepower for a GT3 car.
Yeah, Alex Albert wishing he had a fifth more horsepower there, as he got it all kinds of wrong at the top of the hill. Sliding sideways before the carousel, and now going to have not only Cameron Martineau right on the rear bumper, but also Lincoln Fox a little bit closer than we've seen in the last few laps. And with this potentially being a lap where we could see them hitting the pit lane, being the first one there is going to matter a little bit more than it did last time.
So it's down the middle of the road, leading the pack for Alex Albert. Cameron Martineau, the first driver to make a decision, looks to just bump Alex Albert. Lincoln Fox, I think, is just lifting the throttle a tiny bit to stay 2 car lengths back. I think this is deliberate on a couple of occasions to just stay with a tiny bit of space between Lincoln Fox and the leaders.
Interestingly, with the leaders lifting, Ray Lombardi getting almost the same speed without a draft as them as they go down the straight there.
So here on this version of the Nordschleife, you negotiate the Tiergarten chicane here, and pit entry's on the right, and all 3 of the leaders are going for it. So you have to run tight through that chicane on the exit if you're going to hit pit lane, and then the pit lane speed limit only starts about there. They will rush in trying to find their pit crews. Won't be hard for our top qualifying drivers because the pit stalls get given in qualifying order. Cameron Martineau has pit stall number 1. And pit stall number 2 was Ray Lombardi. Pit stall number 3, Lincoln Fox. Pit stall number 4, Alex Albert. Do you see any tyre changing going on here? I'm only seeing fuel going in with 3 laps to go, and I'm seeing Lincoln Fox winning the race off of pit lane.
By quite a bit, too. Michael Coates in the background. But yeah, the story is Lincoln Fox's fuel-saving efforts did work out. And he's going to have more than a few car lengths as they come off the lane. I'm counting, what is that, almost 4 seconds? That's going to be significant. And almost 6 seconds faster off the lane. Got to wonder, though, who's banking on what length of race here?
Well, I feel like with laps this size, the calculation's pretty easy. The leaders could have gone 10 seconds a lap slower, and we still would have had an 8-lap race by my estimations. So we have pits from everyone. But Michael Coates has had dramas on the pit exit. Significant ones. What's happened for him? He's left his pit stall and then come to a stop, driven straight on. He has a black flag. It must have been speeding on pit lane on the exit.
So easy to do. That's a heartbreaker, and I guess he's decided doesn't want to serve the penalty.
Real shame.
Yeah.
Coates was sort of running 5th, a chance of catching 4th, having worked through the field so far early on. Dramas also have befallen Lincoln Fox on the outlap. Was leading by 4 seconds.
And Lincoln Fox has disappeared from my radar screen. Let's see what I can find. I see him churning right, and then suddenly just going straight, and pulls off the track, and then gets out. Yeah, I don't have anything. I'm not sure exactly what that must have been. Must have been a real-world emergency coming for a simulator race. Either way, that leaves us now with a smaller gap, still a gap, between Alex Albert and Cameron Martineau, who are going to finish this race in battle with each other. 4 seconds, the tune, just not 4 seconds up to Lincoln Fox now.
Yeah, Cameron Martineau qualified 5 seconds faster than Alex Albert. So Cameron Martineau is going to need to channel those qualifying laps once again to try to reel in Alex Albert in the final laps of this race.
We've got some funny stuff in the pit lane. Stephen Hermetz has come in and put quite an angle on the stop. I'm not sure we can get an angle of that. Yeah, parked it in there, little Mr. Bean style, nosing it in.
It's a short little pit lane. There's only 19 pit stalls, so a couple of them are shared. And if you're Hermetz and you qualified 14th, you're towards the pit entry side. So some of the drivers who stopped a couple of laps earlier now moving back up. So Alex Harrison goes to 8th. Ian Giebler goes to 9th. They've got Michael Thorne on not an outlap, first lap after the outlap, just ahead of them, that I think they've been reeling in.
Yeah, it does seem like it. He's certainly within striking distance at this point, just a few car lengths up the road. Almost 2 seconds flat. As Alex Albert makes his way through Bergwerk and up the hill for the first time since the pit stop, he's holding. So 4.39, put that one in your brain, and we'll check back in on that number later, see if he's able to hold the gap. Alex
Hold the line. Love isn't always on time.
Yeah, something like that. Ian Giebler pushing up against Alex Harrison, really taking miss to heart as he slams the inside curb.
One of the slowest corners on the racetrack, and Alex Harrison runs wide at Verzeif and steers across the track into the Armco, and Ian Giebler was so close to absolutely drilling him.
If you're Ian Giebler, you used up one of your 9 lives. That was that was close. Boy, oh boy. Now, Alex Harrison's driving, and that hood is, well, I'd say it'd come flying off if we were on the real Nurburgring. He's going to try and find his way, but it's hard to see where the track goes with the hood in the way, and he decides that discretion's the better part of valor and puts it on the pit lane.
Man, oh man, we talked about in qualifying how difficult it is to lay down one clean lap. Well, in this race, how challenging it is to lay down 8 clean laps in a row. It's tough for this group of drivers as well.
Almost a mirror image there. Logan Senhauser runs it wide on the exit too, and if he hadn't had some self-control, he could have gassed it up and spun right across the track the same way.
Being pursued at the moment by Mark Kruger. Orlando Herrell is being pursued by Tim Wire.
Tim Wire is still working hard, trying his best to track down Orlando Herrell. Wire, I think earlier we saw him ahead, and then there was that little spin for him, I believe. Got it facing the wrong way and kept it off the wall though, critically. Ripping the Salen's car there.
On board with Wire as he does get within 1 second of Orlando Herrell. Heading up the hill into the darkness. Headlights not on the race cars yet, but it's got to be shortly. It's certainly dark. You've got lots of valleys and shade with the trees around as well. Some darker clouds looming.
Yeah, we'll see who can carve the finer line as they head down the hill here.
A lot of really tall curbs around the Nordschleife, but just there at Wipperman, there's some flat ones that you really can climb all over. And it's a rarity because most places, you're looking at these curbs that would come up to your knee or your hip. You don't want to run over them at all. They are super tall, stay off me curbs, but just a few places you can use up a little bit of the curb, like on the exit there as well.
Yeah, I figure if they put a curb like those on the F1 circuit, we probably
at the end of the straight
track problems. Wouldn't have any complaints about 10-second penalties.
And they've really watered down all of the penalties in F1. Like, remember when, you would get given drive-through penalties. Now things that used to be a drive-through are 5 seconds. It's like, bring back a 10-second stop and hold for running someone off the road, and no one's going to run anyone off the road.
Oh, but then how will they sell the tickets to Drive to Survive, my friend? The premiere's got to pay for itself.
The last of my concerns.
Here. Tim Wire's closing the gap on Orlando Herrell, getting right up on the rear bumper. But we are looking at our leader, Alex Albert, who is still holding the gap. What's that gap up now, though?
About 3 seconds. So I think on this lap, Martineau's only taken about 1.5 seconds out of Alex Albert. There's no white flag there. We've definitely got more than 8 minutes on the clock, so we'll go for 2 more. See a little bit of the Grand Prix circuit out there. There's a lot more runoff and space there. We're on the Nordschleife. And I feel like this is the lap that Cameron Martineau might want to push a little bit more. And then on the final lap, you've got lots of opportunities to think about how you want to play it tactically.
Yeah, being second place going on to the straight on the last one is probably the preference. Oh, big punt there from Tim Wire. That was a push and a half.
It's a little offset as well. He didn't line it up. Because you're sitting offset in the car, so the way to try to line up the bump draft best is if you're looking straight at the back of the headrest of the other driver rather than looking at the middle of their bumper.
Yeah, always a little bit tricky. But it was certainly a big hit, and I think if you're Tim, if you're Martineau, you're right. That's probably where you want to be, is running second place and having the option on the final lap. Too wide up here.
Tid is dropping back.
Yeah, Sennhauser coming by.
Yeah, significantly repaired Cameron Sennhauser goes back through into 11th there. Sennhauser was... No, you can't compare it because there was a pit stop in there. I was going to say 11 seconds faster on the last lap, but that's not true because it included Brian Tidd's in-lap and the pit lane speed limiter.
Reminded me a bit of a guy who's feeling a little braver on a whited-out road in winter passing. There was a pretty big differential in speed there.
And I will just take your word on that. Like, you'll just have to trust me about how you drive when there's kangaroos beside the road.
Oh, I imagine it's not unlike how you drive when there's moose beside the road.
They do locomote slightly differently, and different things startle them.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Moose going to weigh more than the car. Kangaroo probably a bit less. Mark Kruger. No, who's this? This is Orlando Harrell and Tim Wire looking pretty close together as they head over Swedish Cruise. They're still battling right now for 5th and 6th place. We'll see if any more attrition comes into play. And then we've flipped back now. And who's this? We've got nose to tail. That's Cameron Sennhauser and Brian Tidd.
Brian Tidd seems to have found his mojo again, but of course you have that Dottingerhöhe straight, and it does make you feel a little superhuman. The slipstream can take you from a second back to slingshotting past at almost 10 miles an hour quicker, it feels like sometimes.
Oh, it does
DRS
feel good.
moved?
Yeah, it does feel good. They just need to make sure F1 cars are shaped like Miatas, and they'd sort it all out. Meanwhile, Mark Kruger is making a move up the inside at the same time as these guys are. Mark Kruger makes it work up at the top of the hill. Catch the end of it there. And Brian Tidd's been passed in the meantime behind, but action on track in 2 different spots at once.
It's non-stop Sennhauser excitement here in the ChampCar iRacing League. The brothers have done some of the endurance races together as well, sharing the same PC. Sharing the same rig, but not sharing the same PC. That was what was interesting about it. They had both PCs set up, and in the pit stop, they would just unplug the monitor from one PC, plug it into the other. And so they were using 2 computers, but only one wheel and monitor.
That's a beautiful, beautiful little bit of brotherhood. Gotta get my brother into sim racing.
I checked exactly what my brother's playing, but I think he's got far too many hours in things like Civ and the other Paradox interactive things to ever consider iRacing.
I bet you my brother would probably be more into Euro Truck Simulator. He's got his commercial license in the real world.
So the lead gap, this is it, between first and second place. It was 4.5 seconds. Then it was 3. Now it's 2. Now it's under 2. It's Cameron Martineau through the twistier sections of the racetrack. Is pushing on to try to catch Alex Albert before we get to the final lap.
Yeah, and at 1.5 seconds, it's that's within the draft, and I have to say, I think we're going to see him battling it out door to door in the final sector on the final lap here.
Yeah, this is going to get you close enough that you've got the whole of the final lap to try to make your move, rather than catching them right in the final sector of the final lap and hoping you time your run on the Dottingerhöhe correctly. Martineau's going to arrive in good time to play the game of chess with Alex Albert and have plenty of chances to try to overtake, or even to try to pass this lap and pull away if possible. I don't think that's going to be super duper possible. We're going to look at Mark here as he has gone for a spin at Verseifen, I think it was, just like Alex Harrison did, and then a little earlier than Alex Harrison.
Yeah, but the consequence is much less severe, so he's got that going for him. Martineau and Albert, though, a little added layer here. We've got prospective champion Cameron Martineau leading the championship, following multi-time champion Alex Albert. So a little bit of pride on the line, I got to think, between these two too.
And the headlights have come on the race cars as well, as we're soon to start the final lap. Tail lights come on, all of the lighting comes on, but there's not stadium lighting around this racetrack. It continues to get darker. There is, as we begin to approach time running out on the clock and starting the final lap of the race, not a single hint of rain to be found on the radar either. There are some nasty clouds, but none of them are precipitating just yet.
Yeah, they're a little too far away. I don't think we're going today. The mountain decides to keep the driver safe. You know? One last, the second to last time onto the Dottingerhöhe for these two.
Now it's all about who holds their nerve. And it's not about who can lap quickest solo. It's about who plays this game. And Alex Albert, I think he might have almost had a little lift of the throttle. He's going to put Cameron Martineau into the front position heading into the final lap. And then he can maybe try to stay with and make a pass on the final lap. That's the game that they're playing, with such long straights and high speeds around the Nordschleife. And this really long straight just in the final sector that sometimes you can come from a long way back, make your move and take the win. Not unlike racing at Daytona on the road course, except just more challenging the rest of the way around the lap.
Oh, man. Yeah, the two of them in lockstep. 119. We've seen 125, 127, 129 even down the Hohe this time of the year, but this race rather. But it's been just a little bit of gamesmanship happening. Will be interesting to see who can time up the run. Meanwhile, we got a couple other cars just entering, and fastest lap of the race, an 8:02.7 from Cameron Martineau that time by.
Yeah, he really pushed on to try to close that gap, and he did, and he's shown that's the kind of pace he can have when he needs it. Entering the Dottingerhöhe, you find Orlando Herald just ahead of Tim Wyer. Wyer's not as close as he was last time he put the big dirty bump on Orlando Herald.
Yeah, if he closes down and gives the bump draft from all the way back here, they're going to end up on the space station somewhere, I got to think.
Joining the European Space Program.
He's closing down, though. A couple extra mile an hour relative to the car ahead. A few even. Really shows you the power of the draft out here. Won't be enough to close them all the way down. One storyline we haven't mentioned in a little bit is Ray Lombardi. He's still lapping around in third place. And still running about 8:07 a lap. Hasn't wavered very much from that pace since he started setting those laps after breaking off from the lead pack. He's feeling pretty comfortable, you got to think, in this race with about 20 seconds ahead and about 30 seconds behind.
Cameron Martineau's been pushing on this lap, trying to break that gap. He got it to about 1 second as they approached Flugplatz, but then Alex Albert was just close enough. And through this sequence here, he closes it all back in. Cameron Martineau, he might be trying to rely on the section from the carousel all the way around to Flansgarten and the Kleines carousel to try to break 1 second on Alex Albert. Albert has a little bit of a slide there. It's the kind of mistake you can't afford. And there's few parts of the lap where a leading driver could break away.
Alex Albert's a cerebral driver, smarter than me anyway, and he sure manages to pick up a lot when he's the following driver. So we'll see what he's able to learn from the speedy driver ahead. I will note the last time by he ran an 8:03.5, which was 5 seconds faster than his own qualifying time. So we'll see if he's able to apply some of his learnings to this final lap.
We are on the final lap, and the time on the clock is about to expire. The white flag was waving for them. They knew one more time. Cameron Martineau gets up to 0.8 of a second here. But he's just not quite able to get that 1 to 1.5 that he needs to be able to lay down his one lap pace and leave Alex Albert in his dust. You've still got a few long straights to come up before you get to the back sort of half of the lap, where I think Cameron Martineau might be able to do it.
Yeah, they're pushing hard here. Seeing them using up all the curbs that we haven't seen them use all race long.
Through the louder links and downhill into the braking zone at Bergwerk. Again, middle of the road until you get to a very late apex, using just a tiny bit of the curb on the exit. This is, in these cars, one of the biggest slipstreaming opportunities because it's so uphill.
Yeah, those poor little Miata motors are screaming all the way up the hill. And while they take their time getting to the peak, we can check in on fourth. Andy Kosick, he's running about 55 seconds back. I know we had some fans looking out for him. And then Orlando Harrell and Tim Wire will be another battle for us to the line. Just a second between the two of them, rounding out the top five. We'll keep our eyes on the lead pack, though, as they head towards the testosterone corner, and Alex Albert's closing down suddenly.
You put in all of that work, you put in a couple of tenths here, a couple of tenths there through the corners. You really make Alex Albert have to hold on to stay with you, and then he just gets it all back here. So approaching the part where it's enough corners, it's long enough between the straights that Martineau could try to pull away. Alex Albert's job, of course, is just to not lose a whole second from here through the carousel and all the way around through Wipperman, Brunchen, Ice Curve, Flansgarten, and then to, of course, the Dottinger Hohe on the final lap, where so many races on the Nordschleife get decided.
Oh, it's feeling like a good one here, Haynes.
You're rubbing your hands, you got your snacks ready, you're thinking you've got a driver with nothing to lose in second place, and you've got a driver who was so dominant, so fast in qualifying. He was on pole by almost 5 seconds. Martineau's at one with the track, but racing is a different thing than qualifying and lapping solo around here. On board with Alex Albert in second, he's doing all the right stuff to just try to stay with Martineau, and knows that when they get to that final super long straight, he's going to have a big opportunity. Too much apex curb, too wide, drifting the car, losing just a couple of tenths. Exactly what Albert couldn't afford to do. He's got 1 second now to Martineau, who's going to see the opportunity to really try to break away.
Oh, and that was a moment that could have broke the race wide open there. Stay within a second, and he'll still have a shot in the draft. But it's danger time. 1.2 seconds now. Oh, and they go over the jump, and it's widening still. 1.32. Alex Albert's taking all the wrong curbs, it seems like, through this final section, having a hard time keeping it up. 1.5. He's trying everything he can, but it's not working to close that gap.
1.6 seconds. 1.5 could be closed. 1.6, it's looking like it might be too much. There's still a couple of corners, though, that Cameron Martineau's got to give his all through here at Schwalbenschwanz. The Dove's Tail, and then Kleiner's Carousel. The little itty-bitty one towards the end of the lap. Very banked on the way in, begins to unbank at that point. He flies out of it at immense speed, 1.8 seconds clear of Alex Albert, who's giving it his all, but he's run a little bit wide through there. Galgenkopf here, right-hander, over the crest. drops away, and you can get to full throttle here and just keep it pinned. You're going up through the sequential gears, and he's got 2.2 seconds on Alex Albert. He might have broken the back on this one.
Yeah, that felt like the race. Alex Albert had one of those corners at Klein Carousel that feels like, you're under pressure, and it feels like it's the first time you've ever taken the corner. I think he braked and turned right and then turned left and got it all kinds of wrong, and that cost him a critical amount at that point in the race.
Some drivers would have been tempted to try to let Alex Albert back into the lead so you could slipstream them on this straight. But he took a chance, made a wish, made a change, and broke away. Cameron Martineau, 3 seconds in the lead and growing. I think Albert's running short on fuel here. I think he needed that tow, and he doesn't have it. Now 5 seconds back. This margin's going to be massive for Cameron Martineau, awaiting the checkered flag. The ChampCar iRacing Series, the drivers voted for the most challenging racetrack in the world. The Nurburgring Nordschleife, and Cameron Martineau comes out on top with a margin. Here's Alex Albert bringing it to the end of the lap, but he's dropped 10 seconds, 11 seconds back. Ray Lombardi's not going to be able to get him to the line. It's Lombardi in third. Any other battles that could be decided to the final lap here? That doesn't really look like there's all that many, unless someone else has fuel dramas like Alex Albert.
Yeah, Tim Wire and Orlando Harrell were shaping up to have a battle, but as Wire went over the hill and turned...
Ray Lombardi, come on, mate. Making a 3-point turn to reverse across the line in third.
That's beautiful. Yeah, Tim Wire had a little issue coming through Eichbach and lost a lot of time. We'll follow Andy Kosick in that minty car as he comes up the hill one last time, sweeping left, sweeping right, and sweeping left again as he sets up the final few turns here. Solid race for him, but not one that was filled with stunning action. Just the quiet consistency that the ring requires.
Next up, Orlando Harrell. Again, he kept himself clean enough and consistent enough that there were a few drivers, like a handful of drivers with faster laps than him, like Tim Wire. But he's going to finish ahead of Wire. So Harrell for a top 5 in the ChampCar iRacing Series.
Tim Wire.
Just a couple seconds back.
Yeah. And then I got to say, I'm proud of my fellow Canadian here, Michael Thorne, having what I think is his best finish ever here in the ChampCar iRacing Series. Cracks the top 10 all the way up to 7th place and puts on a pretty good show around a very challenging racetrack. Ian Giebler coming across the line in that shiny white car. Almost got caught up in some of the dramas early on, but managed to keep it pointed the right way and on the painted stuff. Logan Sennhauser now driving down the straightaway, heading towards the final few turns, and he'll be cracking a bush soon, I gotta think.
How do they affordably mass produce a thermochromatic can?
It really is something else. Magical, You're thinking of the mountains, though, keeping the mountains cold with the Coors voice.
The beer that I used to enjoy came in a textured can, and like Monster Energy does, and then they stopped doing it because it was apparently significantly actually expensive to produce cans like that. I was like, oh, lame.
Well, we won't get to ask Logan Sennhauser this time. He crosses the line in 9th place outside of our podium. Mark Kruger not far behind in the yellow number 10 car. And Brian Tidd will be the first of a trio of Canadians who are coming across the line this time to round out the race.
Thermochromic inks change color at a specified temperature as the product is chilled.
Tidd crosses the line and takes takes 11th place in a car that is decidedly not thermochromatic. It's very yellow and very purple. Alex Harrison coming down the hill for his turn at the Glory, being followed by Stephen Hermetz. I think Harrison has enough fuel. He's driving pretty slow, but I think he's got enough fuel that he'll make his way to the finish. Stephen Hermetz, though, is pushing for all he's worth, trying to close things down. And he has taken a few seconds out of Alex, but it's not going to be quite enough at this phase of the race. And Stephen Hermetz rounds out the top 12. One more car to go. That's John Nicholford, and he's going to give us a tour. Getting faster throughout this race, but still learning his way around, I think, the ring.
Yeah, he's the only driver left on track, so he cannot gain, but also cannot lose. So we'll get to the results where Cameron Martineau wins. It was close, but he broke the back of his opponents there. Albert needed the toe, needed to save a little bit of fuel. Cameron Martineau didn't let him, broke the toe, and Albert actually ran out of fuel just in the final sector as well. So he needed that to go with Cameron Martineau, and Martineau just went flat chat, broke them all, and broke away with an 11-second win. Alex Albert in that second place there. Ray Lombardi in third. Andrew Kosick gets fourth. Orlando Herald gets fifth from Tim Wire, Michael Thorne, Ian Giebler, Logan Sennhauser, and Mark Kruger in 10th. Started 20th on the grid. And you just keep your nose clean around the Nordschleife, you will pick up positions. Brian Tidd, Steve Hermetz last, and John Nicholford going to be the last drivers to finish on the lead lap. Alex Harrison ended that one lap down. And if you keep it clean, you will gain positions because you'll finish ahead of drivers who didn't. Really talented drivers, though, like Lincoln Fox, Michael Coates. They were so quick, but they didn't get the result they were hoping for from the Green Hell in 16th and 17th. Actually, I've got Lincoln Fox 15th, Sean Roberts 16th, Cameron Sennhauser 17th, Simon Foweather 18th, Michael Coates 19th, Aaron Reed 20th, Bill Salen 21st, Dennis Federation 22nd, and Stephen Schaefer 23rd. Didn't start the race, but it'll be a little while before we get those official results. But we absolutely know our top 10 and we know our podium.
And we know our winner, and we've got our winner on standby here. That's Cameron Martineau, knocking off another one, and knocking off a challenging one at that today.
Yeah, Devin. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, like I'm sweating. Alex and Lincoln were driving, they were keeping up with me right there, and yeah, I had a ton of fun with that one. And then, because I was out front, didn't save any fuel, so my pit stop was really long and had to do a lot of work for the last two laps to try to catch back up. But yeah, always a lot of fun in these MX-5s, and especially at a big track like Nordschleife.
Yeah, it looked like that Fox might have pulled a bit of a strategy coup on you there in the middle, and then suddenly see Fox pull off track. What were you thinking as you rolled out of the pits?
Yeah, I when I saw him pull out really, really early, and I was like, oh no, I don't know. I don't know if be able to make up that much time on them, because they both Alex and Lincoln had really, really good pace during the race. So, and then I don't know. I was wondering what happened to him. Did he have an incident or something, or?
We haven't heard yet. It looked like a controlled slow down and stop. So either some sort of real life problem getting in the way, or maybe a critical fuel miscalculation. It's hard to say.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's a shame, because I'm sure it would have been a really, really good, last few laps with just seeing how the strategies played out, and if we all could have been back together like we were for the first half of the race.
Yeah, it looked like you and Alex were having a pretty tight battle though. There, you had a couple laps to go, and you had 4 seconds to make up. What was in your mind as you were chasing him down?
Just hitting my marks, and staying focused on every single corner, and just trying to, really just try to drive fast, but still within my means because, this track definitely, you have to show a lot of respect to this track. So, for me, it was just try to get into draft, try to just hit my marks, stay, not try to push too hard and see if I can make up the gap. And then once I got by him, I figured let's see if I can break the draft from him on that last lap. And I guess I did. So, that was really just my thought process there. I probably could have stayed behind him for that last lap, but then what would we be watching on the broadcast, right?
Yeah. Well, and hey, it looked like when you were pushing it, it really threw a monkey wrench in him there. At the end, he had a couple mistakes, and then suddenly the big gap, and you were able to coast it across the line.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, it was just trying to just focus on my race and not worry about what he was doing, and just hope that I was there at the end. So, yeah, I think definitely I'm happy about how the end of that race went, and definitely one that I'll remember for sure.
Well, another trophy for the cabinet. That's 5 for you this season by my rough count, and all but locks you up. You started looking at the schedule for next season yet?
IRL or virtual?
Well, we'll have to hear where you want to go racing in the sim, but I was thinking in the real ChampCar series, yeah.
Yeah, I'm based up here in New Hampshire, so obviously Watkins Glen would definitely be a race that I have my eye on. So, I'm admittedly perusing for cars at the moment, and also I've done one ChampCar race and have connected with a few teams this year. So, I definitely am hopefully going to see everyone on the grid next year out at an actual ChampCar race.
Know a couple of folk up at Watkins Glen that might offer you a hot dog on race weekend.
I wonder who that would be. I would gladly take one, even though I don't know. Maybe this. I've heard this, but I've heard that each hot dog takes about 30 minutes off your life. So, I don't know if that's true or false, but definitely worth it.
You gotta try everything once.
Absolutely.
But congratulations on another great race, and we look forward to seeing you back and seeing you at the track.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, and thanks for what you guys do every week that we do this.
Cameron Martineau, the winner from the Nurburgring Nordschleife, the Green Hell. Amazing in qualifying. He had to bide his time, stay calm, stay cool, stay clean in the race. And then on the final lap, breaking away from Alex Albert and Ray Lombardi, who end up as our podium. You don't have to wait too long for the next dose of ChampCar iRacing series this year, because we are headed, I just had it up, it's VIR North in the Renault Clio. The race is in 3 weeks' time, so practice is in 2 weeks' time. Forum.champcar.org has all the information, or you can find us on Discord as well. We look forward to bringing you that one in just a couple of weeks' time. And of course, Spec 5 World Tour here on HJBC as well. David Haynes here with Devin Peters, Michael Derby. From the Nurburgring Nordschleife, Cameron Martineau extends the championship lead.